and process flow for single and bulk contract termination. This e-learning will give you an overview of calculation of discharge quote, request for termination and approval of termination in LMS, TCS Bank's LMS application. LMS provides the user digital solution for managing loan termination process. The option enables the user to terminate a contract before the maturity period or contract end term. Contract termination can be processed only on full status contracts. Contract can be terminated only when contract status is full. Termination request will be raised in LMS and mail approval will trigger to the application authority based on the deviation matrix. Once initial decision is applied, the request will be available in the checker queue LMS for final decision, post which system will terminate those approved contracts that meet the termination validations or conditions. User will generate the request for termination for all eligible contracts which pending for termination. The termination process broadly includes following steps or stages: terminal dues calculation, discharge quote, request for termination, apply for termination, checker queue for final marking of termination. Once the contract approved in the checker queue, necessary accounting entries post termination will be passed and contract got discharged in system. Discharge quote. This option enables the user to generate a discharge quote to pay off or pre-closure the contract before contract term end date. Log in to LMS application using SAP code and password. Click on Customer Services. Enter customer contract number and click on Submit. Ensure that the contract status shows full. From the left-hand side menu, under Contract Termination, select Discharge Quote. Select Settlement Date and click on Submit. Note: settlement date is the date when customer wants to pay the outstanding amount on contract. This is how the discharge quote landing page will appear. Here, customer details, loan details, agreement dates and dealer details will be displayed. Here, you can also access the customer's cluster details and unclear check details. Next section is the transactions after input date, that is, the transactions that will be applicable after the settlement date has been entered. Here, you can view the customer's discharge amount, credits, additional interest rate, policy end date, net PMT charge, that is, contract closure penalty charges, GST, next EMI date and future principal outstanding. Below that is the balance as on section. Here the settlement charges column shows the applicable charges as of the settlement date and the system date column shows the applicable charges as of system date, that is current date. Note: here you can see that the difference in both charges is the intervening charges which has been calculated. User can print this record by clicking on Print. The print option will generate the closure letter which can be shared with customer. Request for termination. User will use this option for the actual termination of contract. Termination can be of three types, that is RFT or request for termination, where termination request can be raised for a particular contract, bulk termination or auto termination. These options will be used when a group of contracts needs to be terminated or system generated termination is required. Bulk and auto termination options can only be used for mature contracts with no overdue balance. RFT termination. Click on Request Termination from the left-hand side submenu. Select Function as Create. Select the settlement date and click on Submit. Note: settlement date can be current or future dated or backdated also. The deviation, if applicable, is auto-calculated by system. Here, most of the fields are auto-populated, which will display the contract details. Fields marked in asterisk need to be filled. Select Settlement. Select RFT flag that is RFT with money receipt if customer has paid amount in full, or RFT without receipt if RFT is being generated for future date. Select closure type and enter closure reason. Next, PMT charge will be displayed here. In the next section, you can view the closure amount as per the settlement date. Waiver amount can be entered here if applicable. Transactions after input date detail will be displayed here. Enter the branch remark. Requester can upload the supporting documents relating to RFT through DMS file upload option. If any fee type, memo or waiver had been applicable on the account, it will be displayed here. Note: to proceed with RFT, the net settlement price should be 0 in case of deviation. Click on Get to display the approver details. In case of no deviation, user can directly click on the Submit button. In case of there is excess balance in the customer accounts post settlement of all the dues, then it is mandatory for user to transfer the excess amount either to transfer or income at the time of RFT submission. There are two LOB available in Absorb Balance 2. Transfer. User can transfer credit balance amount of loan to respective internal account and it can be refunded to customer or transferred to another contract of the same customer. Income. If the user select income, then the credit balance goes in income. This field is inactive when there is debit balance in contract account and user has entered waiver amount. Click on Submit. Success message will be displayed. Post RFT approval, status of contract is changed as RFT. Approval of request. RFT, deviation cases. Once the request is approved, then mailer will be get triggered to the respective authority. Approver can click on the link in mail to approve or reject the request. Once approved, the request will move to closure queue. The contract status will now display as AFT. Now, request is available for approval in the pending queue of special rights function. In case of RFT, no deviation cases. In case of no deviation or no waiver cases, once the request is approved, the request will not be raised to any authority. Instead, it will be available for approval in the checker queue of special rights function. Post RFT approval, status of contract is changed as AFT. RFT Enquire. The RFT Enquire option can be used to view the details of RFT termination. This can be viewed for termination requested or disclosed contracts. Note: you cannot make any changes in RFT Enquire option. Status Amend. This function can be used to reverse the RFT or AFT which has already been requested. Click on Status Amend under Termination from the left-hand side menu. Select status change from, that is RFT to normal, AFT to normal or AFT to RFT depending on the status of the contract. Enter narration or reason for status amend. Click on Submit. Success message will be displayed. Bulk termination. Bulk termination will enable user to terminate multiple number of contracts based on set parameters. Click on Bulk Termination tile from the LMS homepage. Enter minimum auto termination days. Company code and report type will be displayed. Select branch code and LOB. In the threshold limit section, you can enter the parameters for contracts that you want to initiate bulk termination for. Click on Submit. Success message will be displayed. There are two levels of bulk termination process. Generation of file for eligible contracts for bulk termination, which should be verified by user. User will upload the file using File Upload option. For generation of the file, user has to enter the values in fields in the bulk termination. User has to click on the Submit button. After submission, System will check all the conditions and generate a file for eligible contracts which should be verified by the user. Post verification, user can upload the file with remarks for closure. Once the file is submitted, the contract processed for closure. Date of closure is the file upload date. At the end of the bulk closure process, all accounting entries relevant to the closure will be processed in the system. The status of the contracts closed under the bulk closure process changes to discharged and substatus changed to auto closure approved. Now, all contracts which satisfy the parameters mentioned will be terminated by end of day. Special write function. Once the RFT request is approved, request will be also appear in the pending queue menu under special rights option. Person having approval rights for deviation under special rights option can approve or reject the request. Note: in order to perform the special rights functions, the contract status should be RFT. User should have special rights to approve pending cases or deviation cases and should have branch access rights to approve pending cases of specific branches. If the deviation request is already approved or rejected by deviation authority, the request is already approved or rejected on date, month, year by employee name, message will be displayed. Also, if the deviation has been approved or rejected via mail, it will not be appear in the pending queue. From the home page, click on branch name or select all branches. Click on fetch. Result will be displayed in grid format below. Click on the contract number to view details of contract. Click on DMS file inquiry to view the supporting documents for deviation if available. The screen displays the waiver amount, waiver authority, unclear check amount, current balance. Special write screen displays only 20 results at a time. User needs to click See More button to view more results. Checker can either approve or reject the deviation. Once the request approved by approving authority, contract status changed to AFT and contract will be appeared in the checker queue under special write function under approved cases. If the request rejected by approval authority, then contract status changed to full and future PDC and ACH status become active instead of hold. Note: post checker approval, system will pass the following entries. Waiver of memo charge wise will be passed. Reversal of additional interest charged waived. ACH mandate will be deactivated. If the request rejected by checker, then contract status changed to full. Post checker rejection, system will pass the following entries. Approval till last capitalization date will be applied on the contract. PDC or ACH will be restarted for future dates. Special rights approved cases. Click on branch operations and then special rights. Special RFT rights screen is displayed. Select RFT rights as approved cases. Enter branch and click on fetch. Approved contract details will be displayed in grid below. It will also display the details of waiver amount and credit provided if any. Validate and click on submit. Success message will be displayed. The contract status will now change to DISC, DISC. Auto termination. Auto termination function enables the system for bulk termination of contracts with nil balance. Note: for auto termination, below conditions need to be fulfilled. It is auto closure process, hence all eligible contracts will be closed by end of day. Mature contract with nil loan balance. All memo charges should be nil. Additional interest charges should be nil. Contract end date plus minimum auto termination days must be less than or equal to predefined bulk closure date. This concludes the functionalities of termination.